Why do educated professionals who want coaching and know that they need coaching not follow up with executive coaching? These are called objections. Objections to executive coaching can vary based on the individual or the organization, and addressing these objections requires a very tailored approach that acknowledges the executive's concerns while highlighting the potential benefits of coaching. Now, unfortunately, as a certified executive business coach, I also have to play the role of sales and marketing professional at times. This is part of the normal business cycle in a entrepreneurial type business like coaching. Typically, when a professional feels the stresses, pains, anxiety of the daily responsibilities of their profession, they will do extensive research to find a qualified coach, get on a call with that coach to interview them, understand and see that coaching is a tremendous opportunity uh, that they absolutely need, but then let the devil on their left shoulder talk them out of having a coach, mentor, and confidant due to an objection that is internal to them. They spend the prospective client spends valuable time then making excuses, basically out of fear, and then change course to steer away from exactly what they need, which is coaching and mentoring. This is true regardless of experience of the CFO or professional um, size of the organization, timing of the coaching requirements, gender issues, et cetera, et cetera. So now I'm very biased towards coaching and mentoring because of in my career I've had three just extremely good coaches and mentors, starting with Ernst & Young in 1990 all the way through today. Um, these three gentlemen have really helped me be in a position where I am today, and that's being able to help individuals, professionals through the issues and opportunities that I've either sat through in a chief financial officer role, chief executive officer role, chief restructuring officer, et cetera, or coached professionals through it in my coaching business. So a key term here is cognitive distortion, which is the mind's negative way of thinking about events, opportunities, and life experiences. For example, our mind is not our friend all the time. And so if I fear about missing a deadline, let's say I'm prepping the board deck for this quarter, and I fear that I'm going to miss that deadline, my brain will automatically search through my database and find every other incident in my life where I missed a deadline. This then solidifies my anxiety about the board deck and proves to me that, you're right, Kurt, I will not make this deadline even before I start the work. And in short, my mind looks for negative ways to enforce my fear that parallel my fear or very similar to my fear, i.e., the deadline. Thus, it makes my fear a reality. And it's at that point where it's a self fulfilling prophecy. And honestly, from my experience, it's the saddest outcome in coaching, which is finding a client that needs coaching, that wants coaching, but allows cognitive distortion to blow this opportunity even before they start. Um, so let's get to the important stuff here now. In my coaching career, the following five items comprise 99% of the objections, and the first three comprise about 95 of the objections that I hear from executives inquiring about coaching services. And those five things are cost, time, fear and skepticism, change, and lack of trust. So let's look at each one of those individually. So from a cost standpoint, executives, they may see coaching as expensive. They may see it as an investment that wasn't budgeted, that they hadn't considered last year, et cetera, especially if they are unsure about the ROI on coaching. So two quick thoughts on this. Executive coaching is a professional development plan for the individual professional. With that in mind, it is a corporate expense. When analyzing corporate expenses, we've all been trained to look for an ROI and a payback on our capital spends on endeavors. So, it's are we doing an acquisition? We're doing an M&A. Do we acquire new software, et cetera, et cetera? So there's always a calculation of what are we paying for this? What's the ROI? What's the payback? Now, this may sound rudimentary, but between the experience of somebody like myself who has sat in that CFO chair for decades and the client who sits in that chair for whatever reasons they are qualified to sit in that chair, if these two professionals cannot find a massive ROI, and I'm not talking about covering the cost of coaching, I'm talking about a massive ROI and payback on these coaching fees, then neither of us should be in our respective chairs, and I'm going to go quit and go mow lawns for a living. However, some of the coaching results are hard to quantify, but I have never in my experience had a client come back to me and say, the investment was not worth it. The investment was not worth the ROI. So there's definitely a significant payback in the costs and results of a coaching program. So enough said on that. Number two is time. Busy executives often doubt or wonder, do they have the time to dedicate to coaching sessions and implementing changes? And again, this reverts back to the tool that we use. Is there an ROI? Is there a payback on this investment? In one of my coaching programs, to be specific, I spend 50 to 55 minutes each week on the phone with a client. And then there's time with email and text and phone conversations outside of that time. Our initial goal is to carve out 5 to 8 hours per week by analyzing your daily activities, your morning ritual, your meeting cadence, your meeting effectiveness, your delegation authority and expertise, et cetera. So one of the main coaching items is grabbing time back from the day-to-day activities that we face that don't have a massive payback back to the firm. So coaching is not a pile of useless, senseless activities that we thrust upon ourselves because we don't have enough work to do, which we all do at this point. But it's a strategic, step-by-step process to train the client's mind in order to develop the thought processes to capture and structurally deal with everything that the client has going on at that time, both in their personal and professional lives, because they're so intertwined. Coaching does not consist of additional work that does not fit in the mainstream of the firm's and the professional's goals. It's comprised of the solutions to the problems and the solidified direction that the professional is involved in. So coaching addresses the firm's and the professional's problem. It does not create additional work. Enough said there. Number three is fear and skepticism. Some executives I have found are very skeptical about the effectiveness of coaching, or they may have had a negative experience with coaching or mentorship, et cetera. This is a concept that the mind has to be open to, because we go back to cognitive distortion. If we're going into a relationship, if we're going into a business plan, if we're going into a merger or an acquisition, if we're going into coaching and we don't believe that it will work, it will again be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our brain will pick out the losses and detriments as they occur and then send us an airplane with a flag that says, I told you so. And then the negativity starts. We look upon that investment as a no-go, a non-winner, and the whole thing falls apart. So if you are contemplating a coaching relationship, walk into it with a positive mindset. Don't listen to that devil that's on your shoulder. Often a prospective client says, I need to think about it. And what that immediately tells me is that the client needs coaching, but has unaddressed issues or unsolved fear about exactly what coaching consists of and how it can greatly benefit their everyday lives, both personally and professionally. The number 4 item is change. Coaching involves heavy change. It explores new ways of thinking, ideas, and approaches, which can be intimidating for some executives. Transformation improvement only occurs when you're hitting your head against the ceiling. And so busting through these limitations and getting to that next level is where transformation and improvement occurs. So think back upon your career. Maybe you started as controller, made it through CFO. Maybe you went to business school, graduated, got an MBA, and now you're a CFO. something like that. Did you take that head on or did you back off? And of course, the answer is I took it head on. I went and got this position. I grabbed it by the neck and I went for it. So think of that improvement. We don't think about going to college as something that is tough to do. It's really mainstream for most of us. But coaching is something else that we look at and say, I don't know if I can handle this change. We take it head on, and that's how you got to that position right now. So enough said on that. And the final objection really is a lack of trust, where executives may be hesitant to trust a coach due to concerns, either it's confidentiality or ability or what is coaching, what does coaching consist of. So to alleviate that situation, there's major experience in many coaches. Coaching is 100% confidential. The discussions are closed. The communications are closed. They are sacred grounds for somebody like me as a coach, and that goes absolutely nowhere. So enough said on that. Just a parallel list to something that we've all heard about. In 1954, I believe, Roger Bannister broke through the 4-minute mile. And when he did that, even his worst enemies, worst rivals breathed a sigh of relief, because at least somebody did it at that point. And once they saw it could be done, that 4-minute mile became open season, and his competitors starting to do it too. So I believe it was 46 days after Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, John Landy, an Australian runner, broke it too, and broke Bannister's record by over a second. And then other things happened. Some other people broke it, but then a year later, 3 runners broke it, the 4-minute mile in a single race. And to date, I think there may be 1,900 or 2,000 runners that have broke through that 4-minute mile barrier. Now we can say it's due to improved training programs, athletics, shoes, nutrition, blah, 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 that helped that along. But however, 2 Wharton professors analyzed this athletic feat in their book, and learned that it was the mental model, not the physical model, but the mental model that allowed Bannister and a few runners after him to break through that 4-minute mile. It's a very interesting chapter in their book that's dedicated just to the 4-minute mile and the thought processes and strength that came with that. I think the book is called The Power of Impossible Thinking or something of that effect. But if you're interested in that, look that up. Okay, in closing and summary, these objectives serve to only hinder a client's progress and allows the client's doubts to take over through that cognitive distortion, and keep you where you're at, stuck in the mud and not moving forward, not breaking through that ceiling for your transformation. So if you feel the need for coaching, make sure you have addressed these issues or will address these issues with your coach in order to make the coaching relationship as high of an ROI as possible.